The Lure of Fools by Jason King. Chapter 1. Jove stumbled away from the blaring heat of the inferno, hot wind and stray embers stinging his back. When he was finally far enough away from Almat to turn around, he did so, eyes hungrily taking in the scene before him. It was as beautiful as it was terrible. Voracious flames engulfed every house of the small village, creating a spectacular nimbus of orange that lit the night sky. Jove half giggled and half sobbed. The people of Almat had been hospitable and kind to him, despite his ragged appearance and green eyes. Never had Jove known such charitable welcome as he had staggered into the village half dead from exposure. They had loved him and treated him as one of their own, until they caught him trying to hide the corpse of a young woman in the loft of Shedrek's barn. That was when Almat's collective sentiment toward Jove had shifted to something approaching disdain. He reached up and felt the bald patch of his scalp where a tuft of red hair had been ripped free. Shedrek himself had hauled Jove by the hair to the village square, where he was beaten and tied to a post. Jove had tried to explain around a mouth pocketed by broken teeth and filled with blood that he hadn't meant to hurt the girl, that she had welcomed his advances, and their cavorting had only turned violent when she started to feign disinterest. Of course, it had been a lie. Perhaps only true once in Jove's life, the first time he killed in the heat of passion. He had been a young man then, his violence confined to secret fantasies, and only somewhat accidentally materializing into reality. What was that girl's name again? He couldn't remember. There had been so many lovely dolls that he played with, all of which he had broken. Jove winced against a blast of heat released by Almat's granary falling onto Shedrek's barn. What happened to me, Jove wondered. The villagers had been enthusiastically decorating the ground at his feet with kindling, Old Man Hessep watching with his crackling torch at the ready. That was when Jove had felt it take him. The hunger. He had no other name for it. A cold emptiness swept over him, a desperately hollow feeling concentrated first in his chest before spreading to every limb and digit. At that moment, just as Old Man Hessep had made to set his feet aflame, Jove lashed out with something. A translucent tendril of greenish warped air, like a tentacle, exploded from his chest and plunged directly into the chest of Old Man Hessep, who convulsed and dropped to the ground, writhing. Jove had watched in astonished wonder as the old man's face drained of color and his eyes dried before falling from their sockets. He had withered away before Jove, until the man was only a prune-like husk. Immediately, Jove had felt a surge of strength, and in one fluid motion, he broke the ropes tying him to the wooden post. The surrounding villagers had gaped, their eyes wide with frightened incredulity. As if by instinct, Jove threw up both of his arms, and multiple tendrils of warped air exploded from his chest, lashing out at them. One took Shedrek in the back. Jove recalled watching in fascination as the burly man quickly withered into what looked like a mummified corpse. At this, the rest of the angry mob turned to flee, but Jove had not let them get 5 paces away before launching out another spread of tendrils, taking out each of the fleeing villagers in the back. A chorus of screams kissed his ears before abruptly cutting off as the 30 or so people fell, withered, and died. By that time, more of Almat's citizenry had been roused from sleep by the clamor. Jove smiled as curious heads poked out of doors and windows, and then, with speed that was more than human, he had launched himself at the nearest house and its unwitting spectator. What happened next turned out to be a new thrill for Jove, one that surpassed even the excitement of his sadistic pleasures. He smiled as he vividly recalled feasting upon every living thing in Almont. Not the flesh of his victims, but their very life force. Greenish tendrils of energy siphoning away the light in their eyes and giving it to him, making him stronger. And his feast wasn't confined to people. Animals, plants, and even the very grass at his feet withered before him. By the time Jove was finished, Almont was a ghost town. He set the fire that now immolated the town out of habit more than sadism. He had always felt a compulsive need to be thorough in disposing of evidence. In fact, he had planned to burn down Shedrec's barn once he had hidden the girl's corpse beneath the piles of hay. Now, instead of hiding one corpse, Jove ended up disposing of dozens, the inferno serving as an effective crematorium. What had happened to him? Who or what saved him? Not God. He was certain of that. Could it have been the devil? Jove had heard tales of demons claiming humans as their mortal vessels, but he always discounted those stories as superstitious myths to explain away mind sickness. Jove barked a laugh. He was either mind-sick or possessed, both options equally damning. After several minutes of thoughtfully watching Almont burn, Jove turned away and began making for the west road. He wasn't sure why he chose that direction, but something inside him urged him forward. He paused. What of supplies, he thought. I am alone and miles away from the nearest village, Almont excepted. But he wasn't hungry, or thirsty, or sleepy. In fact, he thought as he began walking again, his step lighter. I feel healthier than I have in months. He shrugged. Just the adrenaline rush of nearly being burned alive invigorating him. But no, he shook his head. This was different. The sense of physical well-being was synthetic, just as energizing as food and rest, but somehow not natural. By dawn, Jove was more than 20 miles away from the village he destroyed, and still not famished or fatigued. Not natural, he thought. The road veered north, but he continued west. After walking some distance from the road, he stopped and surveyed the terrain around him. An expansive forest stood a dozen or so miles in the distance. Sudden anger flared inside of Jove as he gazed upon the forest. No, it was not exactly anger, he decided, but something more akin to disgust. Why did he suddenly hate the forest? The urge to burn the tall aspens down consumed him, and his hand habitually went into his pocket for the tinderbox that was no longer there, he having used all the fire starters to burn Almont. Unthinkingly, he glanced back in the direction of the town, though he had long since passed out of viewing distance. That's when Jove saw something that gave him pause. A perfect trail of dead grass behind him, running all the way back from where he left the road. He looked back to his feet and found the grass upon which he stood dried and brown, while all around him it remained healthy and green. He took an experimental step forward and drew in a sharp breath as the patch of meadow withered before his eyes. "I've changed," he concluded. "The power that came over me in Almont changed me." Jove took 2 more steps, both causing the grass beneath his feet to wither and die. He looked up and spotted a thicket of trees less than 100 yards away. He trotted towards them, slowed to a stop, and laid a hand on the nearest aspen. The green leaves dressing its branches began to change color and fall to the ground. A shower of brittle leaves tickled like raindrops until every branch was utterly naked and the tree gray with death. His hand dropped to his side as he stared at it, as though it had touched the face of God. "I am death," Jove whispered. "I am Death," he repeated, this time a little louder. He barked a harsh laugh and turned to look at the forest on the horizon. The trees within the woods were much taller than those in the thicket. Taller, older, and arrogant in their upward struggle from the ground. That's when Jove realized what so offended him about the forest. All that greenery and growth represented life, and, if he were Death, then naturally life would offend him. All life. Jove began to laugh. He was a fool. He didn't need flint and steel to destroy the forest. He could kill the woods and every living thing there, simply with a touch. He was Death.